In the current and modern world we undergo every day, society tends to have an image about introverts that is not nearly mirable to how we should truly see them. People often stereotype them as lonely, antisocial, scared, and shy. But in a great number of cases, the ownership of being an introvert is actually quite a strength and advantage. The human race often comes across the determinable question of having the personality trait of either being an introvert or extrovert. An introvert is someone who is self-reserved, pensive, quiet, and someone who doesn't like conflict. Extroverts are quite opposite, and they are loud, social, demonstrative, and someone who likes to voice their opinion. In your prior and younger years, you might have taken the very accurate and reliable quizzes on BuzzFeed to determine which personality you proclaim and represent to be. I know, very dependable and authentic. Because the probability of you knowing someone who labels themselves as an introvert is very high, as extroverts, we need to become more aware of whom we are speaking to and how we are speaking to them. This could be a family member, friend, classmate, teammate, and/or coworker. Interestingly enough, the introvert you have encountered has a great probability of being the most intricate and thoughtful person in the room. Introverts have the tendency to be more observant and thoughtful, which reflects into more brilliant ideas. Now I'm going to be discussing a scenario in which extroverts tend to react when paired with introverts. Raise one hand if you have ever been in a situation where you've been in a group project and you encounter someone who is super quiet, kept to themselves, and is noticeably an introvert, and you had the thought, great, the rest of the group and I will have to make up for this guy because he or she isn't going to contribute anything. Keep your hand up if that person ended up thinking or contributing the best idea. When introverts choose to speak, they know their words and opinions will have a great impact and will contribute to the situation. Lastly, raise your hand again if you are and were that person who is the introvert and came up with the brilliant idea. Even if you're the biggest extrovert and tend to socialize with other extroverts, that doesn't mean you don't come into contact with introverts. According to Susan Cain, an expert in the field of how personality shapes our lives, states, the power of introverts in the world that can't stop talking is unreal. About 1/2 of Americans are introverts. In a more visual sense, 1 out of every 2 to 3 people you know labels themselves as an introvert. Susan Cain has scientifically proven that introverts averagely take longer time to process information than extroverts. This is due to the fact that introverts tend to process scenarios, situations, and ideas more thoughtfully. They have the currency to take extra time to think of what they want to announce respectfully to the idea that introverts don't feel comfortable speaking out loud, unlike extroverts. People might feel that being an introvert is somewhat of a disadvantage, but in reality, it's honestly a great strength. If everyone in the world was an extrovert, then life would honestly be pretty boring. By having introverts in the mix, they make life different, and not everyone's the same. Also, being an introvert is who some people are made to be. Some of the most important people in my life are introverts, and that's what makes me love them. As I sometimes think to myself, what if in another lifetime they're extroverts? And let me tell you, I can't imagine it. Being an introvert makes and defines who they are. And they were created perfectly, and they shouldn't feel judged or like an outcast for that. Due to the stereotypical idea that introverts are people who tend to not participate, contribute, and keep to themselves, extroverts need to learn as a community and society that often introverts have the best ideas and have a different way of looking at things. This is because they observe their surroundings and differ their attributions to things differently because they have a different point of view of things. Instead of feeling dreadful and annoyance to people who choose to be a listener and not a provoker, think how beneficial their presence and attributions will be because their response will be more thoughtful. To create a positive change in society that makes introverts feel included, extroverts need to have an open and honest mindset. By being open with introverts, extroverts will further expand and grow their horizons with whom they tend to share their horizon with, meaning to make your social life bigger and expand who you socialize with. Extroverts should learn to make introverts feel included and make sure their voice is heard, especially when they have the confidence to speak up, instead of just sitting in the corner fearing of not being heard. To wrap it up here, always remember to be aware and conscious of where and whom you are talking to. You never know how they are mentally processing things and should be more considerate of our actions. This quote from John Lennon greatly prohibits the idea of being self-reserved is totally okay. Silence is a source of great strength.